Hello, YouTube. Zealand is a 7,031 square kilometers, largest and most populous island in Denmark proper, thus excluding Greenland and Disco Island, which are larger in size. Zealand had a population of 2,300,000 in early 2020, and Zealand happens to be the 13th largest island in Europe by area and the fourth most populous. And it has a mystery. Look, there are many amazing things on our planet, and some of them are really weird. Today we will talk about one incomprehensible artifact. This is an outlandish skull discovered on the Danish island of Zealand. A strange-looking skull. It's usually very easy to distinguish genuine items from fakes. However, in some cases, such as the one being described, there is no final rational explanation. The skull from the island of Zealand is one of the most controversial archaeological finds ever made by man. And some enthusiasts believe that it is the definite evidence that the Earth was visited by aliens in the past, and one of them probably fell behind the group and died on our planet. There are also those who support a different hypothesis of where this artifact came from. In fact, in their opinion, it belongs to an unknown species of men who roam the forests of modern Denmark hundreds of years ago. But, as always, there are skeptics. They are sure that this item is just someone's very sophisticated joke. Which side you will take depends on you. Below are a few facts about this mysterious find. Draw your own conclusions. Fact number 1. The mysterious skull was found in the year 2007 in the city of Ephremov, Denmark, by workers who change sewer pipes. Fact number 2. Other remains of the hypothetical body have never been found. Perhaps the skeleton of the mysterious creature is buried in another place. Fact number 3. The skull was first examined by scientists in the year 2010 at the College of Veterinary Medicine in Denmark. Before that, no researchers basically wanted to deal with it. Fact number 4. The results of the 2010 research could not explain what kind of person or animal the find belonged to. Fact number 5. The researchers stated that although this thing resembles a mammalian skull, some of its characteristics do not fit into the Linnaeus taxonomy. Fact number 6. The most daring researchers suggested that the found object may have belonged to a horse. However, further studies have shown that it definitely belongs to a species unknown on Earth. And 7. Since no one was able to establish the truth about such a strange find, the skull was sent to the Niels Bohr Institute located in Copenhagen. Carbon dating has shown that this mysterious creature lived between 1200 and 1280 Common Era. There are those who believe, of course, that this whole story is most likely a well-thought-out hoax. However, what is interesting is that the size of the skull's eye sockets indicates that the hypothetical creature had very large eyes. Such eyes could allow their owner to see even in the infrared range. But it is in this part of the optical range that red dwarfs mainly emit light, which interestingly make up almost the entire nearest stellar environment of our sun. But I will not let you go just like that. I want to tell you about, well, let's think it to be a possible link. You see, I'm speaking about a short novel or a large story of Ivan Ephremov, that mysterious Soviet scientist, expert in paleontology, author and philosopher, who was considered by KGB or the secret police to be an alien, an extraterrestrial. You can find my research, and I urge you to, in the playlist that I have attached into the description of this video. I think you will always find Ivan Ephremov to be a very enigmatic and interesting personality. Well, stellar ships or starships, in Russian «Звездные корабли», is a novel by Ivan Ephremov, written in 1944 and first published in 1948 in the USSR. So it took time for it to be published, and it's not only because of the war. The story is about the discovery of an ancient dinosaur bone with a mysterious bullet hole or a blaster hole and an alien skull and his, call it portrait, nearby. This acts as a starting point and a cover story to the philosophical idea of plurality of the mind cradles in the universe, similarity of planet evolution paths, and similarity of physiology and psychology between different sentient beings throughout the universe. Ephremov states the final perspective for all civilization is a great circle which will unite them all. This is when various intelligent creatures, species throughout the universe exchange information. Fascinating ideas. But you see, we don't really know who Ephremov was, and he predicted a number of things that came true, from diamond pipes in Yakutia to a few other things. So when I read his stories, I tend to think that he was telling us things that we may be finding in our research, archaeological or paleontological, and of course the whole story with his expedition to Mongolia in search of dinosaur bones and the discovery of the giant skeleton. It's fascinating, and you can read about it. You can listen to my videos in that playlist. Anyway, this is about, let me give you a few interesting examples from that book, Excerpts. Davidov was one of the scientists. I'll read you. Belly bent his massive body to the cramped trench, looking under the giant skull of a predatory dinosaur. A small dome about 20 centimeters across protruded from the damp and therefore darker rock. The color of the bone was unusual, dark purple, almost black, sharply separated from the white bones of the dinosaur skull. The mother-of-pearl luster of the strange bone was also unusual, smooth as if polished. It glowed vaguely in the shadows at the bottom of the pit. It turned out that it was the skull of an alien. Skeletons of several smaller animals, both carnivorous and herbivorous, were found next to the first dinosaur. The hunter must have dropped his weapon while running away from a huge beast. Therefore, his skeleton was not there. And this is a reference to the alien that perished on our planet. And the Soviet scientists discovered it during their excavation of skeleton, of dinosaur bones. Fascinating reading. And you can find, actually there is no English translation, but maybe someday there will be. After the skull and the head of a dinosaur with a bullet hole from an alien weapon were delivered to Moscow, Shatrov came to his friend. So, and they're looking at the artifacts that they found on the skull and the disc. There was a strange dark purple skull in front of Shatrov, covered with an ornament of pits and grooves deepened into the bone. The powerful bone dome, the receptacle of the brain, was completely similar to the human one, as well as the huge eye sockets directed straight ahead and separated by a narrow bone bridge of the nose. But instead of protruding nasal bones, there was a triangular hole. From the base of the hole, the upper jaw beak shape slightly bent down at the end, abruptly pushed forward. The lower jaw corresponded to the upper one and also did not have the slightest trace of teeth. The structure of the jaws, nose, hearing aid is quite primitive. This pits on the bones. The whole sculpture showed that the skin was very tight to the bone without a subcutaneous muscle layer. So their evolution path to become thinking being was shorter, Davidov mentioned. There were found two small metal fragments in a round disc about 12 centimeters in diameter in the area of excavations. The small fragments had faces of the same size. In general, each fragment looked like a truncated seven-sided prism. The metal was similar in weight to lead, but it was characterized by a greater hardness and a yellowish-white color. Guess what it is, suggested Davidov, tossing a heavy piece in the palm of his hand. How do I know? Some kind of an alloy, muttered Shatrov, the other scientist. However, if you're asking, it's probably something not quite ordinary. Yes, it is hafnium, a rare metal similar in physical properties to copper, but heavier and incomparably more refractory. And it has another interesting property, a great ability to emit electrons at high temperatures. This means something, especially if you look at this strange mirror again. Shatrov took the metal disc, which also turned out to be very heavy. The edge of the disc was rounded and it had 11 deep notches located along the circumference of the disc at equal distances. On one side, the surface of the disc was slightly deepened, polished, and very hard. It was a transparent glass-like layer, under which a pure silver-white metal was visible, corroded by a brown coating on one edge. The transparent layer was covered by a ring of solid blue-gray metal, of which, in fact, the entire disc consisted. On the reverse side of the disc, in the center, there was a circle of the same transparent substance, covered with a matte coating, with a convex and not with a concave surface, as on the other side. The diameter of this circle could not exceed 6 centimeters. Around it was the same bluish-gray metal, on which there were cut or embossed stars with a different number of rays, from 3 to 11, in a ring. These asterisks, so to say, were arranged in no apparent order, but were delimited by two spiral lines inscribed one into the other. The metal that makes up the disc is tantalum, hard, extremely resistant, Davidov continued. The transparent film is made of unknown chemical compound. A simple qualitative analysis did not yield results, and I have not yet managed to do a more complex study. But the metal under the film is indium, a wonderful metal. What? Did not hesitate with the questions Shatrov. This metal is also the best indicator of the presence of neutron radiation in our devices, and I know exactly what indium is because I decided to drill it here for analysis. After all, asterisks are letters, or what are they? Shatrov asked excitedly. Maybe writing, maybe numbers, and maybe a diagram of the device. But I'm afraid we will never know. Well, what I'll skip is the way they were able finally to polish off this alien disc, the substances they use. And here's what they found. Davidov, leaning over Shatrov's shoulder, looked impatiently on the disc. On it, under the strips of wet red mush, an increasingly clear glass gleam appeared. Finally, Shatrov sighed with satisfaction, wiped off the polishing mass, moistened the circle with alcohol, and rubbed it with dry suede for several minutes. Done. Okay. He held the disc up to the light, giving it the proper position so that the light was reflected directly on those watching. Both professors involuntarily shuddered. From the depths of the completely transparent layer, magnified by an unknown optical trick to its natural size, a strange but undoubtedly human face looked at them in an unknown way. The image was made in relief and, most importantly, unusually, incredibly alive. It seemed that a living being was looking, separated only by the transparent wall of the optical lens, and above all, suppressing all other impressions, huge, bulging eyes stared. They were like lakes of the eternal mystery of the universe, permeated with intelligence and intense will, two powerful rays rushing forward through a glass barrier into the endless distances of space. In those eyes was the light of the immeasurable courage of the mind, aware of the merciless laws of the universe, struggling in the agony and joy of knowledge. And the views of the scientists of the earth crossed with this extraordinary gaze, looking out of the abyss of time. Their gazes did not sink in embarrassment. Shatrov and Davidov were filled with joyful celebration. The thought, even if scattered on worlds inaccessible to each other, did not perish without a trace in time and space. No, the very existence of life was the guarantee of the ultimate victory of thought over the mind, over the universe, the guarantee that in different corners of the world, space, there is a great process of evolution, the formation of the highest form of matter, and the creative work of cognition. Having overcome the first impression of the staring eyes of the stellar alien, scientists began to examine his face. The big-eyed round head with a hairless, thick, and smooth skin did not seem ugly or disgusting. The mighty, wide, and convex forehead carried so much intellectual, human, as well as amazing eyes that they suppressed the unusual outlines of the lower part of the face. The absence of ears and nose, the beak-like lipless mouth were unpleasant in themselves, but they could not destroy the feeling that the unknown creature was close to a human being, understandable and not alien. The great brotherhood in spirit and thought or mind with the people of the earth unconsciously affected the appearance of the guest of our planet. And Shatrov and Davidov saw this as a guarantee that the inhabitants of the various starships would understand each other. When the space separating the worlds was defeated, when the meeting of minds scattered on distant planetary islands in the universe would finally take place, scientists wanted to think that this would happen soon, but the mind spoke of millennia of knowledge needed for the great expansion of the world. I think that, again, Ephremov, whose case is still classified, although there is no more Soviet Union, 40 volumes of the KGB investigation of this alleged alien. Okay, 40 volumes. Still classified in modern Russia. Okay? He was onto something. And I've read his books, his novels, and I've examined them, and I traveled to Africa because of those books, because I did research, and it's very interesting. and I laid it out in my other videos, and we'll speak more about it. I want to tell you something. This is very interesting, and I think somewhere there is a disk like that he described. And the find, by the way, in Denmark, if it's genuine, seems to be very close to what was described by Ephremov, except the find that they made, Soviet scientists, according to him, that being perished, that's humanoid perished on our planet millions of years ago, but we don't know what happened in other times, and we don't know how many visitations we have had throughout our history and the history of living things before us. But I've been studying it for many decades, and I will continue my research. If I can do it, I'll continue in Africa, I'll continue in Yucatan and other places, because I've made my own discoveries too, and I try to speak to them. And I believe we will be finding more proof of visitations of our planet by extraterrestrial, sentient, developed beings. Thank you for your attention to my work. If you can support my research, you'll find the description and the links to this video. Please tell others about my channel. I'd like more people to know definitely about Ivan Ephremov and more interesting people, human or not, you will see in my videos. Please like my videos, and thank you for your support.